So let's address the elephant in the room. And we enjoy some of the best weather in the planet out here in California. And in fact, when I moved
that is for sure.
Yeah, when I moved from Texas to California, I could not believe that there was a place where the average summer day is about 85 degrees and no humidity. And it's going to change when they move to Texas. There's no doubt about that. But again, you consider all of the different factors. Why are you looking to leave California? Sure, we all love the weather. That's great. But that's going to change when they move to Texas. So can you just kind of describe the four seasons and what people should expect there?
Well, it depends on what part of Texas you're in, but most of the time you have two seasons. I mean, you have July, August, and September, and then you have the rest of the year. And in general, I mean, I don't know that you can escape the Texas heat anywhere. There's different versions of the Texas heat. And everyone has a different opinion. I will say this, because this isn't just about the Metroplex, right? I've got partners in Amarillo, Lubbock, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Galveston, Abilene, Tyler, anywhere you want to go in the state. I've got partners that I can give you as a referral, because one of the things you do want is you want someone that really knows the area well. I mean, the worst thing that can happen to you if you move to Texas is get into an area that you find out a year later you wish you weren't in, and so ask a lot of great questions, and I've made those relationships specifically not only to assist these groups to make sure that someone's there with a smile and willing to help, but the weather part, let's get back to that. So, DFW from really the middle of June to, the first week of September, second week of September, I mean, you're going to average 95 degrees every day. I mean, gosh, a couple years back, it was about 6 years ago, we had 101 straight days at over 100. I mean, it was hot. But, the crazy thing about the Metroplex is, yes, we can have humidity. It's not as prevalent as the Hill Country or Houston area, mainly because our humidity is created by rain. So if we have a wet summer, we're going to have more humidity. And then we'll have some summers that are real dry, and it feels almost like a desert in California, like Vegas. It's going to have a heat. It's not as hot as Vegas, but it's going to have that dry heat. And then if you're in the Houston area, you're going to have to grow gills. I mean, that 3 months a year, you're going to want to grow gills because it's, it could be only 90 degrees, but there might be 100% humidity. And I know this is totally trivial. I mean, not trivial, but also cliche-ish. I would say that a majority of people that even move to Houston that come from different parts of the country, after a couple of years, you just kind of you kind of accumulate to it. And you just kind of know, the beauty of anywhere in Texas is you can play golf 12 months of the year. I mean, last year it was 41 degrees on 2 days after Christmas, but I was playing golf. We don't have a lot of snow. We don't have a lot of major storms that bring a lot of that. I mean, we will get cold, in the Metroplex. You can expect during the real winter months of December, January, and February, we might have a whole week where we're in the high 30s, low 40s. The sun will be out shining. I mean, there's no clouds in the sky. The sun will be out shining. So you can get out and do stuff real easily. And, and then we'll have some winters where it's in the 60s the whole winter. I mean, but I don't even know if people in Dallas really own coats. It's kind of jeans and sweaters or jeans and sweat. The seasons in Houston, there's not a whole lot of seasons. It goes from really hot those same 3 months to a tropical. So then it's just beautiful in the winter. It's always in the high 60s, low 70s all year long. I mean, and it's gorgeous. I mean, you get over to East Texas and it's going to be hot and humid as well, but it's going to be so green it hurts your eyes. I mean, you get over to West Texas, those same eyes are going to be full of dirt. I mean, because the wind blows all day long. So, I mean, it's a whole different thing. But in general, a lot of people that are relocating to North Texas or Texas in general are probably falling into DFW, San Antonio, Austin, or Houston. We have some East Texas going out to Tyler and different areas like that. And obviously some people are coming to the Lubbock, Amarillo area. But in general, those major areas on I-35 and I-45 from Houston all the way to Dallas is where a majority of the jobs are, or where the economy is booming. And, the beauty of it is if you don't mind a 30, 40-minute drive, you can live out in the country if you want in any of those major areas and have a whole different lifestyle and pay a whole lot less in taxes and a whole lot less in houses. And if you don't mind driving 30, 45 minutes, you can any of those major areas, you can be in exactly what you thought Texas was going to look like based off a bunch of John Wayne movies. I mean, you can get that country feel, and you can buy a whole lot of country for a whole lot less. But if you're coming to a metro area, metro areas are metro areas no matter where they're at in the United States. Obviously, the biggest difference in these metro areas is really more of the political cloud as far as massive blue versus red. But, you know, not to go on the political side, but that's probably the biggest difference between the major cities in Texas versus California, with the exception of Austin. I mean, Austin has its own policy. Austin says, I'll keep Austin weird. I mean, well, great. You know, everyone has the right to live wherever they want to live, and it's a great city too. It's a phenomenal city to go down to. But yeah, it's probably, if you are looking for more of a blue persuasion, that's probably the one city you'll find in Texas. So, but again, Austin, I mean, you go down to watch UT play on a Saturday morning in October, and it's, you know, 60 degrees, 65, 70 degrees, and it's beautiful. I mean, you just have to endure those 3 months of the year, and I just smile and bear and grin it. You just deal with it. I mean, it isn't going to stop. It's always been hot and always will be hot. So,
well, with that in mind, I know a lot of people who moved to Texas, and they sell, like you said, the people who sold their 1,000, 1,100 square foot home in Alameda, they can go buy a home and have a pool with that home. Oh yeah. Or they can buy a home that has a massive pool community inside the subdivision. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So most of our subdivisions, most of our we call them planned communities. I mean, every neighborhood you're going to move into is going to have a community pool. So, I mean, most of the neighborhoods in North Texas, I should say most, because if you're in North Dallas or you're in Richardson, Carrollton area, some of those, they're older neighborhoods, have been around for a while, and some of them don't have neighborhood pools because of the length of time in which they were built. But yeah, I mean, there's certain areas. I can speak to Northern Collin County, Prosper, Frisco, McKinney, Salina, Allen, Plano. I sell houses all over the Metroplex, but those are probably where we have the most impact, or where we spend a lot of our time. I mean, you can buy a house on a golf course you can buy a house on a golf course at El Dorado Country Club with a pool in South McKinney in an area that, seriously, I kid you not, this is what other Californians have called it. Looks like Pasadena. The trees are growing over the streets. You're on golf courses. It's gorgeous, right? I mean, you've got big 100-year trees. You can buy a house on a golf course in El Dorado Country Club for $450,000 with a pool. I mean, yeah, you write your own ticket. I mean, and you can spend as much as you want, you can spend as little as you want, you know. And what I'm excited to see is so many families from California, when they make their purchase, they're making purchases that are very fiscally, very smart. I mean, they could obviously come and buy almost anything they want out here. Most of them are looking to downsize debt, and they're finding what they want in a price point they never could ever buy in most areas that they're coming from. And so that's exciting. You know, a lot of them are looking for that opportunity to get in, you know, financially free. I mean, so financial debt free. So, yeah, I mean, Plano's the same thing. There's old parts of Plano that I love that are these old neighborhoods that are 15 blocks of old ranch style houses with huge trees with, you know, half-acre yards that you're getting in the mid-threes. You know, they're 35 years old, but it's a great neighborhood with a very mature look to it when you go inside, and you have all these older ranch style houses that someone else has already renovated, and, you know, you're buying these in the mid-threes with a pool. I mean, it's the beauty is the difference in California and Texas real estate that really should make a difference for a lot of people is, you know, when you move here, you can have a neighborhood that might be in the $500,000 to $750,000 neighborhood, and right around the corner you can have another neighborhood that's in the $250s to $350s, which is like, you know, we're used to living in California. If you live in a certain area, it just goes price per square foot, no matter how old the house is. What's been so fun for for really Signature Home Team has been the opportunity to, at times, have these young couples that are coming in that are, you know, a couple years married, have decent jobs. They're not killing the world economically yet, but we can find them a nice little $250,000 house that's 2,000 square feet on a, you know, little quarter acre in a nice little neighborhood where they're not having to settle to live in a condo or an apartment complex, and their monthly house payment is less than, you know, $1,700 a month with taxes included. I mean, that is so much fun. I mean, and I guess it's fun because when we first moved here, we were able to do that. And I remember the realization that, oh my gosh, I mean, my kids are going to have a backyard. We're going to be in a neighborhood that's got schools involved in it. You know, we're going to be in a neighborhood that's got parks that we can walk to in the evening and swimming pools. and I can't believe that I'm paying this amount. I mean, this much amount a month for something that, you know, would have put me in a 900 square foot apartment, maybe where I lived in Southern California or Northern California too. That's just, I mean, there's just so many great opportunities. And honestly, there are a lot of great opportunities for young families getting started. I mean, I have a young family that'll be here next month that's moving from Northern California to the Placerville area. And we were able to find a $1,250 rent at a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Allen that, you know, is going to be close to some jobs. They don't have to commute too far, but they're going to be in a nice little house that, you know, they've never been able to own a home, you know. And then I have a 46-year-old that's coming from the Bay Area as well next year. She'll be here. I think she's 6 weeks out. Never owned a home. Well, makes well over 6 figures a year, never owned a home. And, you know, we opened up the opportunity out here for her to be able to not only own a home, but to be in a home that will keep her mortgage under $1,500 a month. And the great thing is, you know, through this whole job application process, she has now found that she's got a better job offer than in McKinney, that she has a better job offer now in Waco than McKinney. I called an agent down in Waco and said, hey, because I own my franchises, so I called another owner in Waco and said, hey, this is the sweetest little gal. She's so excited. It's going to be her first house she's ever bought. Looks like she's going to accept the contract in Waco. I've been working with her for a couple months. I want to pass her off to you. I want you to hold her hand. I want you to welcome her into Waco. I want you to be that person that introduces her to all the different things. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean I got to get paid. It's a great opportunity to help another person go and accomplish exactly what I wanted to accomplish when I moved here. And I found with so many of our local people helped me with, but I didn't have anybody that could relate with what we were going through. And so what we're trying to really create, whether it be here in the Metroplex or whether you're moving to whatever part of Texas, I am beyond happy to connect you with someone that will take great care of you and give you great local information so that you don't. I mean, the worst thing that can ever happen, and it's happened to me twice in the last year and a half, and it's, as a realtor, this is going to sound reversal of potential theology, right? I don't want to sell someone a house and in a year have them call me and say, this isn't the right, we need to move. Because when you move to Texas, and it's, you know, no different than California, when I'm helping or my team is helping someone buy a home, the seller is paying us, not you. When you have to sell a home, now it costs you money. And I know for a lot of real estate professionals, that may be, okay, that's great, it's another deal opportunity. I want to find some of their 5 to 10 year dream opportunity that they can be in and be able to be happy where they're at. And so yesterday, in fact, I posted in Leaving California, as well as a couple of different sites. You know, for the last couple of years in Texas, I've been a certified agent with Home Partners of America. And this is a really great program that I feel like a lot of people from Texas should be looking at, not just in Texas, coming from California to Texas, but coming from California to any state. What Home Partners allows you to do is what I call a try before you buy. So you, instead of having to find a rental, so one of the main questions that I have, and I'm sure, Terry, you hear it a lot in the group, is when we move, should we rent or buy? That's a tough decision. I mean, when I first moved to North Texas, my bosses at First American Title said, do you want to live in McKinney, Plano, Allen, or Frisco? And I'm like, well, throw a dart. They all look like great cities. They all have great school districts. They all economically, I can afford them. I don't know. I mean, I just lucked out, and I feel like we chose McKinney because it was so family-oriented as a city that we loved it. But, you know, in that fact, I mean, I still rented for a year and realized, okay, now I know in McKinney where I want to live. So if that concern or that thought's coming up, I would say this very, very confidently, that what Home Partners allows you to do is it's a 1 to 3 year lease to own program. So as opposed to looking for a rental, you can get qualified with Home Partners, and they make a cash offer and buy the house on your behalf, and then structure a 1 to 3 year lease to own. And when we break that down a little further, the beauty of that for our clients or potential clients is, as opposed to finding a rental that's always been a rental that is in rental shape, you get to go ahead and pick houses that are for sale on the market, that have been lived in, updated, all these different things in areas that you get to choose a school district, all the cities. You get to choose these, and they buy these houses for you cash. They make a cash offer. So obviously it makes it a little bit more lucrative for the seller as well. But it's a first and last month down only. And you have a whole year to live in the house and determine, do I like this area? Do I like this community? Do I like this city? Maybe I've been in McKinney for a year and I like Frisco better and I want to live in Frisco. At the end of the year, you give a 30-day notice and you're out with no scars. I mean, nothing. There's no repercussion. Home partners will either re-rent it or they'll sell it, but you actually get half your deposit back, a first and last month back, if you give a 30-day notice. So you get a chance to come out, and instead of living in some crazy hyped up short-term rental situation in which it goes from $2,400 a month of rent to $5,000 a month of rent to have 3 months to look, it gives you some flexibility to really make a decision based on now being here. I mean, I had a client last year that moved in, and a year later, their company asked them to move back to California. Well, in that situation, they had to sell a house now. That cost them part of the money they came in with. I mean, they could have simply come in and done a lease to own in that situation, and in a year said, oh, we're going to move back. Okay, great. They could have kept all their money they put down as down payment on that house in the bank. And I'm not discouraging people from buying homes by any means. That's what I do to make a living, right? Home Partners does compensate me for that opportunity, and I'm becoming more and more aware that I want to make sure other people are making great decisions, not just a decision. I don't want people to feel like they're short-term, oh gosh, we don't have a whole lot of time to look, so let's just buy something, and then regretting that decision. So I put that flyer in there, and it's something that I really feel like we'll probably do a Facebook Live video, just kind of 5 minutes walking that whole idea of what that truly is. Because no matter where you move in Texas, or like I said, other states, they're in all 50 states. Relocation can be difficult enough, but it makes it even worse when you're under a stressed fraction of, hey, we got to do it fast. That's one of the worst situations you can put yourself in, when you're making a relocation, especially if relocation is not paying for you to move. You're making the move based off of your own desire. So
that's great information, Josh. So let's turn our attention to growth. I'm sure, the great thing about Texas is there's room to grow, and also they actually do build freeways when it's needed. Can you kind of address kind of the long-term strategy of the Metroplex, what they're looking at as far as housing growth and freeway growth? I mean, people don't want to go from a 2-hour commute in California to a 2-hour commute in Texas.
Yeah, no doubt.
Address that?
Yeah, absolutely, I can. So in general, our thoroughfares here, I can speak to the thoroughfares even more here in North Texas. And when I say thoroughfares, I mean freeways. We call them interstates. We have 4 major north-south freeways that come all the way through the Metroplex, which allow for a lot of free-flowing traffic. I mean, there's traffic, don't get me wrong. If you live in McKinney and you're driving down to downtown Dallas, that's about 37 miles. What's going to take you an hour in the morning, just because of the amount of people that are traveling down there. But we also have public transportation. You can get out, if you live in McKinney, you can go down to Plano, which will take you 15 minutes, get on the DART train and ride right all the way down to downtown Dallas, and over to Fort Worth in no time. And I will tell you right now, I know I said public transportation, but in general, the DART train system, I ride it all the time when we go down to downtown Dallas because it's phenomenal. I mean, brand new seats all the time, very, very clean. You're not worried about who's getting on the train. It's a very efficient system. But, in general, we have a lot of road expansion happening at the moment. Texas does jump ahead of different. Rarely are you going to be on a lot of roads in North Texas where you just go, okay, when are they going to do something? With an exception of I-35, from like Denton all the way down to 121. It seems like I-35 is always under construction. It's like an anomaly. It's kind of like driving through Albuquerque. There will always be road construction, which it's like a never-ending job. But in general, I feel like, a majority of the roads that are I-20, I-30, Interstate 75, the Dallas North Tollway, the 121, George Bush, the 121 Tollway, George Bush Tollway, 635, all these different roads. It's not a whole. I don't want to say it's California traffic by any means, but if you're driving at peak traffic going into work, 37 miles is going to still probably take you 50 minutes. And if you're going after 8 o'clock in the morning, it's going to take you 37 minutes. It's not. I don't know that any specific area is traffic proof. If obviously the more people live here, the more people are driving. Now it's going to be interesting though. There is a whole new dynamic that's coming into this, right? I don't know what's going to happen after COVID. There have been so many corporate people working from home. we may start to see in Dallas-Fort Worth, we may start to see a lot of these major corporations having a third of their people working from home now because they're just as efficient and it costs them a lot less than commercial leases. So maybe that will help relieve some traffic. But, I can tell you right now, when I lived in Southern California, there were days that I would drive from Ontario to LA, and that's an hour and a half drive to go 30 miles. And if I have to leave from McKinney and go down to downtown Dallas in peak hours, I know that 37 miles is going to take me an hour. I know that. You can only take a freeway so many lanes wide before there's no more real estate to take them any wider. And in most cases, most of Interstate 75, which is called Central Expressway, just for you guys you might hear it that way, it's 5 lanes wide. It's 5 lanes wide on each side. I mean, and there's a high density lane. I mean, there's only so much you can do with, God quit making dirt a long time ago. So once it's built on it, there's only so much you can do about making it better. But in general, I feel like, I can be just so it giving some perspective. I live probably in one of the far northern parts of the Metroplex, which is McKinney. It takes me about 35 minutes to get down to Love Field, which is in downtown Dallas, going down the tollway. That's Southwest Airlines' biggest hub. If I'm going to DFW, the airport over, just north of Grapevine, that kind of splits Dallas and Fort Worth, it's about a 45-minute drive. And if I'm going after peak hours, if I'm leaving at, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the evening to go get somebody at the airport, it's going to take me, maybe 45 minutes. If I'm making that drive in the morning trying to get to the airport, it's probably going to take me an hour. But I can leave my house and be in downtown Fort Worth on a weekend to go down to the stockyards, or maybe go down to a concert, or, go see the Cowboys play, or go down to, Six Flags, or whatever I want, what all the different things you might consider. I can leave my house in McKinney and be in downtown Fort Worth in less than an hour. And that's roughly about 61 miles. I'm sorry, about 58 miles from my house to downtown Fort Worth. Great thing is they let us drive 80 miles an hour here too. So you can get to places a little faster. So, but it's all relative.
Let me just interject here. I think your point, though, is valid that you made earlier, though, is you don't have to live further out to be able to afford houses. I mean, here in the Bay Area where I live, you just have to move, 80 miles away and drive 2 hours because that's the only house you can afford. Whereas it sounds like in your area, you can buy a house that's less expensive, closer to work, because some of these developments have lower priced homes.
Yeah. The only reason you'd move out 30, 40 minutes, Terry, would just because you want a bigger patch of dirt. That's it. You want an acre, and the great thing about so many of our outlining communities is so many of our outlying communities have communities that are literally 1 acre tracts. Everyone has an acre. I have a client that moved here from Southern California last year who is a principal in Northwest School District in Fort Worth, a very prominent school district. And they bought a house that's on an acre, had a pool, about 2,700 square foot, beautiful little house that overlooked the lake area. You could see Eagle Lake, in South Fort Worth. They bought that house, I think, for $410,000. And the whole neighborhood is the exact same thing what I just described. You go out to Mansfield, or you go down to, South Fort Worth, or even South Dallas, or East. If you want that kind of space, if a little bit of country because you have horses or things like that, you want those kind of communities exist. They're not in the middle of, they're not in the heart of, they're not in the heart of Dallas, but you can be in Dallas within 45 minutes of areas that you might find 2 or 3 acres of a nice little house for, $300,000. The beauty is that we have so many different markets that people can enter into. And we have so many different types of, like you said, you have horse communities, you have golf course communities, you have lake communities. You have the downtown Dallas area where you have the M streets and all downtown upper, Deep Ellum, all these different areas that people are all the trendy, old houses that, you can walk to downtown Dallas. All this, you got Fort Worth where you can go to the stock show every 30 days. Every Saturday and Sunday and watch the Longhorns go down the stockyards at 11-2 every day long. Whatever you want, you can get. Now, we just don't have any ocean views. That's the problem. Is George Strait said a long time ago, if you can find one, I'll sell it to you. But unless you're moving to Galveston, Corpus Christi, or some of the coastal areas, that's the one thing that most Californians can't get to unless most Texans can't get to in less than 2 hours is an ocean. If you live in Houston, you're about an hour north of Galveston and Crystal Beach, which are actually not bad areas. But I mean, the beauty of like you said, yeah, having options. I mean, I guess that's one of the most liberating things is having options. I mean, if you choose to, my wife and I have thought very hard in the last couple of years about potentially moving a little bit further north than where we live in McKinney to a more rural community that's a very small community with smaller school districts and more, I like to say rural. But, we were looking at a house the other day that's 3,000 square foot on an acre. That's a custom built house for $410,000. My whole back of my yard is all tree drawn. I mean, you have a west, east facing home. So every evening you're on your back porch with just trees around you, and you're on an acre. And that little town is 15 minutes north of everything you'd ever want to be in. So I'm not substituting convenience. I'm just now different lifestyle. But at least that's an option. I mean, that's the great part of it. Anyway, so I'm probably rambling on, but yeah, that's the beauty of that question, or beauty of your answer there is you don't have to make a decision or have to choose to commute to be happy.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, thanks again, Josh.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it.